Yes.
30 seconds of silence. So we've already gone through 2 sessions, it's a series that we are doing. What was the first session about?
Who am I?
Who am I? So what did we understand? Who am I?
Ma'am, we are a soul.
We are the soul. The soul. Who said vital being?
Ma'am, Sudev Nair.
Sudev, are we only the vital being?
Ma'am,
The
and
one
soul also. Ma'am, soul and vital.
If we are the vital being, then we are also the physical being and the mental being. Sudev, why are you
Yes.
only talking about the vital being?
Ma'am, but
One third of your outer personality. Yeah. So what we are saying, let us understand first. There is an outer personality and there is the inmost being. Inmost being is sitting here. And the inmost being was there in my past life and the past life and the life before that and the life before that. From the time that I was an inanimate object. From that time, this inmost, you understand? That being which is most inside me, which is the soul, right? That
Yes,
is
ma'am.
continuing as the outer being keeps progressing. From the inconscient, it became matter, this outer being. Then it progressed, and from there, life came out, and we became trees and plants and vegetation. Then we progressed more. The soul is continuing in the same body. What is it? What is happening? From the vegetation, slowly, slowly, the lower minds came out. We became fishes and we became frogs. Then we started becoming on the earth, animals on the earth, small animal, larger animal, ape. Then we became the barbaric human being. You know, the caveman, you heard, studied about the caveman, right? And then we became more, we progressed more and more and more. And then we became, where is Sudev Nair? We became Sudev Nair, we became Suhani, we became Shlok, Prakriti, Anjali, Deepa. We evolved from the inconscient to matter, to vegetation, to mind, and finally, barbaric human beings to civilized human beings. Is the journey over? When will the journey be over? When the outer being, which is imperfect still, although it has reached a higher perfection from what it was, when the outer being, the physical, Sudev, the vital, and the mental, this body, this emotional body, and the mental body, physical body, vital body, mental body, when all the three evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve and they become as perfect. How perfect? As perfect as the inmost soul inside us. Because that is the potential that we have. Tell me, has anybody ever broken a seed and seen what is inside the seed? किसी ने कभी सीड तोड़ के देखा है कि सीड के अंदर क्या होता है?
Now I broke a seed with a knife.
Yes, and what did you
Yes,
find?
ma'am.
Did you find something inside it? Nothing.
Ma'am, it was like yes,
Empty.
ma'am, nothing.
And yet,
Ma'am, nothing much. After we see, ma'am, it's nothing, but then it grows out to be such a big oak tree.
yeah, it becomes so huge, or it becomes a rose bush, or it becomes something else. It becomes something else. But when you break the seed, you find nothing inside it. So there must be something inside the seed that when it gets the right sun, the air, the soil, the water, it becomes so beautiful. And yet you can't see that something. So that something, it's a magic word. That something that cannot be seen inside this seed is potentiality. Who will write it down so that you can remember? You can't see the potentiality, but it's hidden inside. And that potentiality in the seed, when it is given the right nutrients, the right soil, the right water, the right sun, air, it turns into a tree. That same potentiality is within us. Outside is my outer being, physical being, Sudev, vital being, and mental being. Inside me is the soul. And what is the soul? The soul has potentiality. Potentiality, which if we tap into, if we connect with the potentiality, that potentiality gives the physical being health, hygiene, and beauty, and strength, and suppleness, and agility, and plasticity. All that the physical being has to do is dip inside, connect with the inmost being. And then all this comes out for the physical being. When my vital being, my emotional being connects with its highest potentiality, which is inside the soul, then what happens? This outer vital being, which is full of anger and jealousy and smallness, littleness, I, selfishness, all that turns into love, sweetness, harmony, compassion. All that is transformed in my outer vital being only with the help of the potentiality. And that potentiality is like the seed, which is my soul, my inmost being, right? Similarly, when the mind starts connecting with the soul and connects and offers everything, and whatever it is doing, it invites the soul into it, then slowly the mind starts getting power of concentration, the power of silence, the power of receptivity, the power to widen oneself. All these powers of the mind come spontaneously when the mind connects to its potentiality, which is inside the soul. All that this outer being has to do is keep connecting, and drawing from this beautiful potentiality which is inside us. All right? So now this is what we did in our second session. First session, we understood who am I? I am the outer being, which is imperfect, the physical, the vital or emotional, and the mental. And we are also the soul, the inmost being. In the second session, we learned how can the outer being and the inner being connect with each other, and how can they be connected all the time. What did we do when we did the 30 seconds of silence today? We invited the inmost being outside, and we said that today in this session, I said, please speak through me. I don't know what to speak. Please hear through my students, my teachers, and please help us to understand. Please help us to become more and more perfect. Okay? Now the third session is, what is the aim of life? If I only keep connecting only, but I don't make any effort of my own, will this happen? Will this happen? No, because we have to have not only awareness of what we have to do, we have to have what else? The willpower to do it, right? So today I'm going to begin with a story. There we have, I'm going to begin with a story from the Bible, Psalm 12.6. Today we are going to speak on the road that we have to take. What is the aim of life? Yes. Once a woman, this is a silversmith, and he's purifying silver. On top of the fire it is put. Once a woman went to a silversmith. She went to a silversmith to watch the process of refining silver. She wanted to understand how is silver refined. Now what did the silversmith do? He held a piece of silver over the fire and let it heat up. He explained that in the process of refining silver, one needs to hold the silver right in the middle of the fire, where the flames are hottest. Why? Because the hot flames will help to burn away the impurities. Then she asked the silversmith that is it true that while you are refining the silver, you have to sit there and watch the silver being refined all the time? And the silversmith said, oh my God, yes. I have to sit there holding the silver, looking at the silver all the time. The entire time I have to watch the silver while it is on the fire. Because if I leave the silver, even for a moment too long, then the silver will get destroyed. The woman was silent for a moment. Then she asked the silversmith, she said, oh silversmith, how do you know when the silver is fully refined? And the silversmith said, "Oh, that's easy. When I see my own image in it, then I know that the silver has been refined." Now just see how the Bible has picked up such a beautiful story to give us an analogy how God is refining us. The Bible says God sits as a refiner and purifier of silver. Just as the silversmith holds the silver, just as the silversmith holds the silver where the flames are hottest, God too puts us through ordeals, through difficulties, lots of difficulties. But He doesn't give us these difficult situations like punishments. There are many people who try to tell us, "Arey, this is a punishment for what we have done. God is punishing us." God doesn't need to punish us. He is not an ordinary parent or an ordinary, just somebody who's trying to teach us that he has to put us through punishments. He neither punishes nor he gives rewards. Why does he put us through these difficult situations? These difficult situations are an opportunity that he gives to us so that we are able to refine ourselves a little more, so that we are able to grow inwardly and we are able to grow outwardly. And just as the silversmith sits and looks at the silver while it is being refined, similarly, God never leaves us alone. Through all our difficult situations, all the difficulties of our life, God looks at us. He watches us. Where all is God? He is inside us. He watches us from inside. He is all around us. He watches us from all around. He is above us like the Lord and Master. He watches us from above. He holds us in his loving arms. He holds us in his embrace, just like the silversmith. He keeps watching over the silver. Similarly, God keeps watching over us, even in our most difficult times. And just as the silversmith feels that the refinement is complete when, when he can see his own reflection in the silver. Similarly, God continues to give us difficult times until we perfect ourselves. Until we perfect ourselves and we also become an image of Him, become a reflection of God. See, God continues to give us difficult times. How long? Until we perfect this outer being which is imperfect. Until we perfect our physical being, until we perfect our vital being, until we perfect our mental being. Until all this happens, he goes on giving us difficult situations as opportunities to grow. Now, what is the aim of life according to the Bible? The Bible says that the real aim of life is to go on refining this outer being, the physical, the vital, the mental. How long? Till we become like God Himself. Till the divine's will, God's will, is manifested through me. God will go on giving us these difficult situations, happy situations. And what is the prayer of the Christian? The prayer of the Christian is, "Let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Understood? Nice story, in the Bible. I thought this was a beautiful story, very beautiful story. So in the Quran, it says Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in their hearts. What does it mean? It means that Allah will not change my condition until I consciously change what is in my heart. Islam believes in submission to the will of Allah. Again, the same thing like the Bible, that what is the will of Allah should actually manifest itself through my outer being, through my physical being, through my vital emotional being, through my mental being. Then only the will of Allah will manifest. So that means my outer being has to become more and more perfect. Otherwise, how will the will of Allah actually manifest itself through us? We will keep imagining this is the will of Allah. But it is not the will of Allah to kill people, to hurt people. Cannot be. How can God want that? So first we have to purify our outer being. Then the will of Allah will manifest itself through me. Now, what does Hinduism say? This we have to understand. And Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, Sri Krishna says, Mad Bhavam Agata. Mad means my, Bhavam means my nature, Agata means come, become my nature. And in this verse, by purifying yourself through knowledge, what are we doing just now? We are purifying ourselves through knowledge just now when we are understanding such deep and difficult concepts, right? By purifying yourself through knowledge and by taking refuge in me, become my natured. Mad Bhavam Agata. In fact, in this chapter 4, verse 10, Sri Krishna says that there are many who have become my natured, and there are still many who are becoming my natured. So you also, Arjuna, become my natured. So what conclusion do we derive after understanding the story from the Bible, after understanding what the Quran is saying for the aim of life, after understanding what Bhagavad Gita says for the aim of life? What do we understand? We come to the conclusion that in all faiths, the Lord and Master has put forth a similar aim for our lives. And that is that we have to keep perfecting ourselves. Like once Sarthak had said, we have to keep chiseling ourselves, making ourselves more and more and more and more perfect. We have to keep on perfecting ourselves. How much? Such that we start reflecting God's will through ourselves, through our outer personality. We should be able to let God's will manifest through a perfect body, perfect, harmonious vital, and a perfect, silent, and calm and composed mind. Such instruments we have to become, that God's will is manifesting through us without any corruption, without any deviation. In fact, through the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna of concrete ways of how you can evolve out of your lower nature into a divine nature. And this, Sri Krishna says that Arjun, you must do this consciously. What does Saint M.R. Jaipuria say? It says conscious transformation is the aim of life. We have to consciously try to transform ourselves. Make your own notes, my dear students. The mother has said that there is a divine will waiting to manifest itself through us at every moment. At every split second, there is a will of the divine which is waiting to manifest itself through Shlok. Another will manifest itself through Suhani. Another will which is waiting to manifest itself through Asha ma'am, through Pramani ma'am, through Anjali. So what do we have to do? We must perfect our outer instruments in such a manner that will may manifest itself without any corruption, without any deviation through our outer instruments. Now tell me, if I have an imperfect body, lethargic body, full of inertia, body which doesn't want to move, do you think that the divine's will be able to manifest itself through this lethargic body? Cannot. Suppose I'm full of jealousy and anger and ego, I. You think the divine's will can manifest itself through me? No. So, this outer instruments have to be perfected. I hope you all are making notes, because we have to then do a little homework. I'm going to give a homework to all of you, like Shalini Sinha ma'am had suggested. Okay? So what are our outer instruments? Let us first understand. Now, we have already understood this so many times in today's talk, but let's look at it. Our outer instruments are our physical body, which is tamasic in nature. We will understand what is tamasic. Tamasic is when one is very lethargic, when one is very, very full of ignorance. One is living in the darkness of ignorance. The vital body is our emotional body. This is very Rajasic in nature. Rajasic means it's full of activity. but it can have a lot of Rajasic problems. We'll discuss it. And we have a mental body, which is Sattvic in nature. Now let us understand these three sheets. Properly, we will be able to understand these three sheets. And when we are able to connect these three coverings to my inmost body, which is the psychic being, the soul, then these outer beings will start becoming more and more perfect. Now let us study each sheath properly. The basic nature of this physical body is what? Tamas. What does tamas mean? It is full of lethargy, it is full of inertia, it is full of darkness of ignorance. So dark that he doesn't even want to hear a talk. कौन समझेगा इतना बकर बकर बकर, नॉट इंटरेस्टेड. कौन सुनेगा? उस समय हम बैठ के थोड़ा मजा कर सकते हैं, थोड़ा वीडियो गेम खेल सकते हैं, थोड़ा टीवी देख सकते हैं, थोड़ा चिल कर सकते हैं. That lethargy of the mind is part of the tamas of the body, right? So anybody, Shri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the last 6 chapters that if you are tamasic, if you are lethargic by nature, then you must make a conscious effort to transform your body, your physical body, and bring some activity, some force into it, so that you become Rajasic. A strong body and life force are needed, to take evolution forward. And steps must be taken. Steps must be taken to throw out this physical tamas from our nature and bring strength and bring force into the frame of our nature. Now, our physical body must be kept in good shape, right? That is why we have so many games and exercises and athletics in the school. Our physical body must be healthy. It must be strong. It must be beautiful. We must make an effort to remain beautiful. For if we aspire to experience God, how can we experience God if our body is not healthy? So it is only through this body that we will be able to experience God. And then, if my aim is to manifest God's will through, that is what we've understood. The aim of the body is to manifest God's will. If I have to manifest God's will through this body, then this body needs to become more and more perfect. The body must be trained to work, but it should not be strained beyond capacity. By a progressive training and a disciplined physical routine, of walking, jogging, exercise, pranayam, the tamas of the physical cells can gradually be converted into rajas. Food habits must be healthy. We must get adequate sleep, and we must also get some relaxation. And then our physical body will become disciplined. By a method, it will become disciplined. And what will it become? It will become well-built, muscular, supple, plastic. ये नहीं कि bend ही नहीं कर सकते, stiff है मेरा back, या मेरे knees में दर्द हो रहा है, stiff है मेरी knees. No, there should be plasticity in my body. So we must discipline ourselves so our body becomes well-built, muscular, supple, strong, agile, and healthy. Outer means, of putting in the regular exercise and discipline. One more means you can use. The other means is that the physical invites the divine and says, please help me. Invites the soul forward and says, you send your force so that my physical body becomes healthy and strong and muscular and agile. So then, when we will call the inner force, and from outside we will put pressure on our tamas to turn it into rajas, then slowly the body will become better and better. Now we come to our vital being. Our vital being is our emotional being. Now, what is the nature, I said, of the vital being? The nature of the vital being is Rajasic. It is very Rajasic. What is Rajasic? See, the vital is a seat of duality, where love, hate, sadness, happiness, all these dualities are always mixed with each other. There are many problems of the vital. And to transform the vital is perhaps the most important aim of life and also the most difficult aim of life. What are the difficulties of the vital? The difficulties of the vital are hate, greed, despair, jealousy, pride, ego, anger, frustration, sorrow, and the biggest difficulties are greed or desire and ego. These are the two basic difficulties of the vital being, right? If one is very rajasic and full of difficulties of the vital, then Sri Krishna says to Arjun that these difficulties of nature must be dealt with consciously. That is why we do the personal transformation project in class 8, right? So that we become conscious of some problem in our being, in our vital being. And then we try to bring about a conscious transformation in that one difficulty of our vital being. Krishna says to Arjun that these difficulties of nature must be dealt with consciously and one must strive to become sattvic. So if one is tamasic, he should try to become rajasic. If he is rajasic, he must try to become sattvic. In Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 37th verse, Sri Krishna says, Kama esha krodha esha rajo gun samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidye na miha varinam. Varinam means greatest enemy. Greatest enemy of the soul is what? Desire and its companion wrath, anger. Both of them are children of Rajas, all devouring, all polluting. And Sri Krishna says, know these as the soul's greatest enemy, and these enemies must be slain. Cut them with the sword of knowledge, with the sword of aspiration to cut these and become sattvic, right? So to refine our vital emotional being is perhaps, again I repeat, is perhaps one of the most important as well as one of the most difficult things to do. What should our vital exude? Our vital should exude love, sweetness, harmony, compassion all the time. You know, the mother has given a hint, and this is the way we can judge whether what I am doing is coming from truth or is it coming from falsehood. She says, look at the bottom of the slide. Whenever we feel restless, all that carries with it restlessness, doubt, skepticism, sorrow, discord, selfish narrowness, inertia, discouragement, despair, all this comes straight from the falsehood. But she says, all that brings with it or creates peace, faith, joy, harmony, wideness, unity, and ascending growth. All that comes from the truth. What a lovely hint she is given. We can judge ourselves. Am I feeling restless? Am I feeling doubt? Am I feeling sorrow? Whenever we think we are feeling sorrowful, and I say, it's because of him. Mother says, no, don't blame anybody else. If you are feeling sorrow, understand that it is coming from a deep falsehood within you. Nobody can give you sorrow. If you are feeling peaceful, you're feeling faith, you can see the faith in your eyes, faith in the presence of God. If you're feeling spontaneous joy, it's not because you got an ice cream. It's not because you got good marks. It's just feeling happy from within. No reason, but you're feeling happy. If you're feeling harmony, if you're feeling like compassion for others, then it means that it is all coming from the truth within, from the soul within. So, the question that arises, my dear students, is how? How do I refine my vital emotional being? What do I do to define my vital emotional being? Here are 3 points. Please note them down. To define our vital emotional being, What should we do? First of all, we must aspire for the true vital. You know the difference between desire and aspire? We desire ice cream, good marks, somebody praises me. All that is desire. But aspiration is when I aspire for God, when I aspire to perfect my being, when I find out ways by which I can fulfill this aspiration, then there's a burning aspiration inside me to reach the goal of my life, to find out the aim of my life. And then there's a burning aspiration in me to become that which is the goal of my life. And there's a burning aspiration inside me to call the divine, to connect with the divine in everything I'm doing. That aspiration should be fueled. We must aspire for the divine at all times. What is the second thing we have to do? Now, suppose I keep aspiring all the time, but I don't make any effort. Will this happen? No, it won't. Because God helps those who help themselves. So, together with that, we have to use the tool of rejection. Reject what? Reject all that takes me away from the path. For example, if I love to gossip or I love to be disgusted, अरे उसने तो ये कर दिया, अरे वो तो कुछ करता नहीं, अरे अरे अरे, all the time criticism, all the time complaining. You have to reject that, to reject such habits in your nature. Because God will help only those who help themselves. We have to consciously reject from our nature all that leads to desire and ego. Reject all that is taking me away from the path. Remember the mother's slide. Remember those words and judge yourself, mark yourself. Am I in that space? If I am in the space of falsehood, I have to reject it so I can move upwards towards the space of truth. So first aspire, then reject, and third, we've already done in the second session, offer. Offer all your impurities before Shakti, before the force, and ask that Shakti, ask the soul, ask God to help you in your ascent towards becoming of the divine nature. Remember what Sri Krishna said? Mad bhavam agata. You know, there is a divine force all the time wanting to help you. But I have to aspire for that divine force. Then I have to aspire to connect with that force. Then I have to aspire to collaborate with that force. Then that force, when I collaborate with the force will become stronger and it will work faster inside my being. It will work much, much more faster. Right? So aspire, reject, and offer. Now, when our vital being, so Sri Aurobindo's written a sentence which I love in the Savitri. To feel love and oneness is to live. To feel love and oneness is to live. Just meditate on this thought for 15 seconds, just 15 seconds. Repeat this sentence inside your inner being, inmost being. So, वो भी कोई जीवन है जिसमें हमने एकत्व की अनुभूति नहीं हुई है. वो भी कोई जीवन है जिसमें I have not been able to experience oneness, where I feel one with the plant. When I break a leaf out of the plant, I feel the hurt. Then I feel the hurt when I'm breaking. Mindlessly we walk, and while walking we just snatch leaves or twigs from a plant. But when we live in oneness, we start feeling hurt when the plant is being hurt. We start feeling bad when electricity is on for no reason, not because I have to pay the bill for it, but because that is actually hurting my environment. And I feel really hurt when I see plastic floating in the river, because I feel hurt that the fishes are going to suffer from it. When I'm not segregating the waste of my home, and I'm throwing bits of plastic and bits of glass in my garbage. And I know that when I throw it in the garbage, when the cow eats the plastic, she's going to die, because the plastic will line the intestines of the cow, and the food that she eats will not be absorbed by her. Then a little bird will eat one piece of glass and die of it. And that hurts me. Then I'm becoming wider and wider than what I am. And my vital being is getting suffused with love and harmony and sweetness and karuna and compassion. And we started becoming wider, and we are experiencing oneness. Tab hota hai, to feel love and oneness is to live. That means my vital is getting refined. When we start feeling a oneness with the nature, with all beings, then we will become willing instruments of God. Now we come to the mental being. How do I refine my mental being? The basic nature of my mental being, fortunately, is sattva, sattvic. Our mental being has been termed as, by the Upanishads, it has been termed as Anamaya Purusha, Prana Sharira Neta. What does that mean? The Upanishads say that in the human body, the mind, the mental being, is the leader. It is the leader of the vital being, the emotional being, and it is the leader of the physical being. How beautiful that is. That if my physical being is erring and it is becoming more and more lethargic, I have something in me which can lead my physical being, which can tell my physical being, hello, get up in the morning. Get up in the morning and do your exercise. Do your pranayam. Do your jogging. Do everything that you can to make your physical being healthy. There is this mind. When I'm full of jealousy or I'm full of anger and disgust, I have this mind which can say to the vital, you know what? The way you are behaving with that person, it is not that person's mistake. It is your ego. You are full of ego. Your ego is making you behave like that. Change it. And the mental can talk to the vital being. So, my dear students of Jaipuria School, whenever there's something happens inside your being, you should be able to identify, is this my vital being which is reacting? Is this the lethargy and inertia of my physical being? Is this the sattva of my mental being? And then you should be able to clearly work on that part of your being, body, or your vital by the help of the sattvic mind. The mind can tell when the vital is playing games. You know, the higher mind, this is the mind. Now, the mind also, Sri Aurobindo says, has many levels. There is the mind, there's a higher mind, and many other levels, which I won't talk about just now. So, the higher mind is even able to connect with the psychic being. It is able to connect to the soul. And when it connects to the soul, then the soul, the psychic being, is able to direct its light on that part of my being which needs the light of the soul. What is the soul? The soul is God Himself. Purnamada, Purnamidam. Just like the divine is perfect, the soul is as perfect as God. And this mind, the higher mind, can bring my negativities to the soul, and the soul can bring light into my negative points and change them. When we aspire for the change, when we reject what has to be rejected. And which was the third? Aspire, reject, and offer. Right, my dear children? Understood? You're making your notes? Now, sattva also has some problems. The mind also has some problems. And the main problem of sattva, or the mind, is the mind starts believing, अरे मैं तो बहुत अच्छी इंसान, मैं तो लोगों के लिए इतना करती हूँ, I am a really good human. That person is a problem. I am very nice. So this I am very nice, this I becomes a problem of sattva, becomes a problem of the mind. So if tamas is the brass chain of the physical being, and if all the negativities of the emotion are the silver chain of the vital which binds the vital, then this whole thing about I, the sattvic ego, I am such a good person, becomes a chain of gold for the person who is sattvic. We must be very careful not to get ensnared, because we will reach sattva and still we will have a problem. To make sure that we don't have a problem even after reaching sattva. Right? Now, we've understood how to progress in the physical being. Can progress in the physical being by doing exercise, pranayam, healthy eating habits, healthy sleeping habits, exercise. All these things will help the physical being to get out of its tamas. For the vital being, we've understood, I'm repeating myself again and again. We have to aspire, reject, and offer. Now, what do we have to do to progress in our mental being? We must enhance the power of concentration, and we have to do it consciously. What do we do in Jaipuria school? Before every period, 2 minutes of silence. Now, 8 periods in a day, so you get 16 minutes of silence. At that time, you get that time to concentrate. Every time you're going to do anything, 2 minutes of silence. So slowly, your power to concentrate becomes better and better. Second thing to progress in our mental being is to widen and to expand ourselves. I told you that when you are breaking a leaf out of a tree, the pain that you feel, that means you've started widening yourself. You get out of your narrowness, I, me, mine, only me, that selfish attitude. And when we want to do something, we want to do something for the Nafsijan students, we want to do something for our, at home we have so many helpers, their children. When we try to do something for underprivileged children in our neighborhood, we are expanding ourselves beyond our selfishness. That is a very important thing to progress in our mental domain. The third is the most important, that we cling to a higher ideal. For instance, you can have an ideal, I want to help the world to become a better place. And you find an ideal, I want to help poor children, or I want to do this, something more than yourself, a higher ideal. And then your whole life starts organizing around that ideal. You live for that ideal. That is the third point. Cling to a higher ideal. The fourth is witness and consciously control our thoughts. Now, sometimes we are thinking of doing something very nice. A negative thought comes in. When I increase my power of concentration, I will be able to reject that thought. Otherwise, what happens? The negative thought takes over my mind. And then my mind starts saying, हाँ, फिर मैंने उसे ये बोला था, फिर उसने ये बोला था. Somebody has just said one sentence to you, but you will say at least 30 sentences to yourself. He has just said one sentence. Yeah, I don't like this that you do. He just said that. You can forget it or you can work on it. Then you say, what does he mean? He spoke like that to me. I always praise him. Then he says this to me. Then I said this to him. And the mind goes on and on. But if you know how to reject negative thoughts and you can come back to your central thought, that is the way to refine your mental being. And one more thing, and the most important, is to develop mental silence, such that we become receptive, because God is always trying to send us inspirations. Inspirations are coming all the time. But our mind is not silent. Our mind is all the time whirling like a monkey. Then we are not able to receive those beautiful inspirations that are coming from the divine. So when one has learned to silence the mind at will and concentrate in receptive silence, then there is no problem in the world that this mind cannot solve. A mind that has learned to offer itself to the divine. Because in that tranquility, tranquility means a silence. in the tranquility of the mind, in the silence of the mind, just like the moonlight reflects on a silent lake, the divine will reflect on our mind spontaneously. Inspirations from high above will come directly into the mind, and we will be able to hear those inspirations. We'll be able to hear those intuitions. Why you will be able to hear the intuitions? Because the mind has become silent. It's not like a monkey which is whirling around all the time. So that is why the importance of silence before everything that you do is a beautiful technique of slowly and steadily getting your mind into the space of silence. Understand the importance of silence? Yes. Now let us just meditate on being silent for just 10 seconds. In our next talk, we will learn what is meditation, what is concentration, and then we will be able to silence ourselves even more. Okay? Now, the question of today, what should be the aim of our life? Coming back to the central question, right? Now, if we look at this question in a very general manner, one answer that will come from everybody will be, अरे भाई, देखो भाई, मेरा aim life का है to be happy. Huh? Now, unfortunately, happiness is not understood properly by us. And then we say, "Arey, happiness is to get good marks, to come first in class, then to get a good job when I become older, then to get a fat packet of salary, then to get a bigger house. Then when I have a bigger house and I want a bigger house, then I have a small car, I want a bigger car. And then for more elder children, nice wife, nice husband, intelligent, hardworking children, and the list goes on till our last breath. There's nothing wrong with this aim. There's nothing wrong in wanting to be happy. All I'm saying is that this happiness does not give us lasting, eternal, infinite joy. So, first we have to understand what is happiness. And does happiness also have different gradations? One gradation was explained by Yama to Nachiketas. Anybody who has heard the story of Nachiketa and Yama? Recording nahi ho rahi hai. Haan, okay. So, let us distinguish between the different levels of happiness. So, there is pleasure, then there is happiness, then there is joy, and there is bliss or ananda. What is pleasure? Pleasure is something that is experienced we can keep it on for some time. Pleasure is something that is experienced at the physical or the tamasic level. Like, it's very short-lived. Why is it short-lived? Because it's a state of desire. And all state of desire and fulfillment of desire only leads to more desires. Today I got an ice cream. I ate an ice cream, felt very happy. For how long did the pleasure of eating the ice cream stay? Not for very long. I came first in class. Great. But does that stay? What do I want? Something that doesn't make me restless. And all desires make us restless. When we have a very good meal or receive a bonus, we experience pleasure. Generally, progress for persons who are indulging in pleasure only means an increase in quantity. More car, more money, more this, more clothes, more video games. But this pleasure does not last for very long. Now, the second level, a higher level than pleasure, is happiness. And happiness is experienced at the vital or rajasic level. Now, what is happiness? See, when we pursue the path of trying to help others, whether it is through money or through education or giving them clothes or any way that we can help, like a friend has missed a class, he was not well, and then you gave him time, you explain to him what he had missed in class, you make up, you share your notes with him. Or there's another child who's weak in maths and you're good in maths, and you help him out in maths. You teach him the concept which he's not been able to understand. This is greater than pleasure. And this happiness leads to a longer period of joy. The, the experience of happiness is much longer than the pleasure that is derived when we get another video game or more clothes or more food to eat. The only problem in this experience at this level is that we may start having a kind of a ego. अरे मैंने help किया, I have helped that person. That the level of happiness is higher than the level of pleasure, right? But the only problem is that we have to beware of the feeling of superiority that I have helped. Now, what is the next level? The next level is joy. Now, the joy is experienced at the mental or the sattvic level. What is joy? Joy is that eureka moment. One maths concept I'm not being able to understand. I'm struggling all the time. Then there comes a moment when I've understood that concept of mathematics. That eureka moment, that gives me joy. And this joy lasts much longer. That moment when a poem is just flowing out of me. A beautiful poem has come out of me. Or I'm writing something and a beautiful creative writing has come out of me. That joy lasts even longer than the happiness. And it leads to a greater fulfillment, right? This is joy. Now, is there something that is higher than joy? And that is bliss or ananda. Bliss or ananda is experienced at the psychic level, in the level of the soul, the spiritual level. And this is the fruit or the result of an aspiration for a higher life. We said now that you should have a higher ideal around which you organize your life. And if you're aspiring for a divine life, then you are living always in bliss or ananda, because you don't have desires anymore. You just want God for sake of God. You want to do the work of God in life. You want that you become a vehicle, an instrument of God's will for you. Then all the time what you experience is bliss. You just experience bliss. It leads to an intensity. And finally, it leads to a divine life on earth. A progress towards a freedom, a fulfillment. Why is there fulfillment? Because there is a freedom from our limitations. There are no limitations. And there is no urgency. There is no, what did we say for pleasure? There is always a restlessness. But when you're looking for God, there is no restlessness. तेरी खोज में ये आनंद है तो फिर क्या होगा तुझे पाने में? तेरी खोज में ये आनंद है तो फिर क्या होगा तुझे पाने में? दर्शन की एक चाह मात्र ने सुख बुना है ताने बाने में. इस जन्म या अगले जन्म में मिल, मैं तृप्त हूँ दिल में बसाने में. बस लगन तेरी यूं लगी रहे, ये कृपा कर अपने दीवाने पे. तेरी थी तेरी हूँ, तेरी ही रहूंगी हे प्रभु. प्रेम की अंजलि चढ़ा, दर्शन करूंगी रूबरू. So when you are at the level of bliss or ananda, all you want is that all my outer being should be so perfect that God, your will, oh soul, your will manifests through me. And that is the aim of my life, to become that perfect instrument of God. See, who is God? God is, and according to our philosophy, the divine is Sat, Chit, Ananda, Satchidananda. He is Ananda himself. So, every time we call him, who are we calling? We are calling Ananda. We get connected to Ananda. We get connected to the source of all Ananda. When we aspire for him, we progress towards him, we get rooted to him, what happens? Ananda becomes our nature too. So what do we have to do? All we have to do is call him, call God. Yes, Mona ma'am. Because he is Ananda. And we just said that what do we want? We want happiness. And then we realize greater than happiness is pleasure. Greater than pleasure is happiness. Greater than happiness is joy. Greater than joy is Ananda. Right? So if Ananda is the greatest, and if we get connected to Ananda, if we dip into Ananda, and where is Ananda? He is inside me. Because Purnamada, God is Ananda, God is Satchidananda, and God has become the soul, and the soul is within me. So every time I connect to him, every time I call him, every time we progress towards him, I dip into Ananda and I experience Ananda, right? So we also get suffused with Ananda. When one lives in the realm of Ananda, one can fly in the higher zones and float through our daily life. Float through our daily regular life simultaneously. At the same time, we can be connected to him. At the same time, we can work in the outer life as if he is flowing out of us. That is the aim of life. Why? Because we are experiencing oneness and unity. So one has to connect with him all the time. Whether I'm studying for my exams, or I'm studying for my homework, or I'm studying in an online class, or for teachers when I'm making my lesson plans, when I'm planning what am I going to teach my students next, in everything, I connect. I connect to the divine. I offer what I'm doing to him. I offer to him the result, and we let that Ananda flow through us. I will keep coming back to the central point. We began our session with the discussion on the aim of life. We came to the conclusion that the aim of our life must be to become that perfect instrument through which the divine's will is manifested seamlessly through our perfected instruments. Let us read this again. What is the aim of our life? The aim of our life must be to become that perfect instrument through which God's will is manifested seamlessly without any corruption through our perfected instruments. And this will lead more and more towards the experience of Ananda. Clear, children? You've written down the aim of life? Now, there may be students who feel, Dekho bhai, this is not in consonance with my preconceived notion for the aim of life. So even for these students who say, Dekho bhai, my aim is to earn money. My aim is to enjoy life. So for them, what we'll do is we will go to the Shastras. What do our Shastras propose? So our Shastras propose the fourfold aim of life. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. They are called the four Purusharthas, or what we can call the fourfold aim of life. So our sages and rishis understood very well. They understood very well that we must live life fully. ये नहीं है कि हमें साधु बाबा बन जाना है. I have to become an ascetic. I should not earn money. No. I have to shun money. I should not want money. I don't have to enjoy life. I don't want to lead an abundant life because I have to shun money. ये सब desire की चीजें. This is not what our Shastra said. Our Shastra said that there is a fourfold aim of life. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Now all of you say it, not aloud, but to yourself. Or say it aloud, but you are muted, but say it. What is a fourfold aim of life? Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So our rishis, sages, seers, they understood that we must live life fully and we must live life well. And for that, Artha is very important. We must want to earn money. We don't have to shun money. Of course, I must have enough money. The earning of money, leading a life of prosperity and abundance is a necessity. In fact, India was most spiritual when she lived most abundantly. If you go through your history books, you will find when we were richest, we were most spiritual, right? So we don't have to abandon money. Sri Aurobindo has said, it is when the race has lived most richly and thought most profoundly that spirituality finds its depths and its constant and many-sided fruition. He says this in the Renaissance in India and other essays on the Indian culture. So I repeat myself, we do not have to shun wealth. We do not have to shun opulence. We do not have to shun a good living. It is part of the fourfold aim of life. So देखो भाई, हमारे ऋषिज ने नहीं कहा है कि पैसे को शन करो. Also, our sages also acknowledged the need for vital and physical fulfillment of desires. So they describe karma as a prerequisite for the fourfold aim of life. Dharma, artha, kama. They didn't say, no, you should not have vital pleasures. You should not look at vital pleasures. You should shun all that. No. They said dharma is important, artha is important, kama is important, moksha is important. In fact, slide 24, please. Sri Krishna in the Gita, he says, I am in beings the desire. See, desire is not contrary to Krishna. Krishna is saying, I am the desire in you. But which desire? That desire which is not contrary to dharma. So the rishis were very smart. Krishna has said, I am the desire. But he's saying that desire which is not against dharma. And see how smart our rishis were. Before artha and kama, what did they say? Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So they said that you follow artha, the pursuit of wealth. Follow kama, the fulfillment of your desires, vital desires. But it should rest on the foundation of dharma. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Right? The word dharma is a very important word. The word dharma comes from the root dhi. Once we can have, my sister had once given a talk, you remember? I think in the spiritual retreat, she gave the talk on dharma. If anybody wants to have that talk again, we can invite my sister again to give the talk on dharma. So the word dharma comes from the root dhi, dhri, which means to hold. Some words from that same root, dharti. See the power of dharti? How it holds everything together. We don't fall off the earth. Are we falling off the earth? The earth is revolving all the time. But the power of dhri, the power of dharti is that it can hold all of us together, right? By its power of gravity. There is gravity. Then there is the word, another root word from the root word dhri, there is another word, dharana. There is another word, dhriti. Dhriti means patience. When I have patience, I'm able to hold things together. That is the importance of the word dharma. Dharma means literally that which holds things together. Dharma is the law, the norm, the rule of nature, action, and life. It is the basic foundation of everything. Sri Aurobindo says in the essays on the Gita. Dharma has also been quite clearly defined by some of our later rishis, and we'll talk about it again if you want someday. So we've talked about dharma, we've talked about artha, we've talked about kama. Now we come to moksha. To understand moksha is very important, because later on in life, you will be told by many intelligent spiritual leaders that the aim of life is moksha. And the aim of life, moksha, means to exit from this universe as fast as possible and not be born again. I don't agree. Sri Aurobindo also does not agree. He says, what? Why has the divine become so many individuals on this earth, so many souls, if the aim of life was to get out of this as fast as possible? Sri Aurobindo says it's the most selfish way to understand moksha. Moksha does not mean to try and exit out of the universe as fast as possible. Right? I question this interpretation of moksha. Right? So epistemologically, moksha comes from the root word. We can have the next slide, ma'am. Moksha comes from the root word much. Much means mukti. Where do we need mukti from? After hearing this whole talk, what do we need mukti from? My dear students of St. Anjali Jaipuria School, you must understand that we need moksha, we need freedom from what? We need freedom from ignorance, we need freedom from desires, we need freedom from our own limitations, our lethargy, our ignorance, our bad health, or our vital, which is limited, I, me, only me. These are limitations, and we need moksha from them. We need moksha, freedom from delusions. And what are the delusions that we are suffering from? Right? Moksha is actually moh ka kshay is moksha. मोह से जब मोह का जब हम क्षय कर देते हैं, cut मोह, moha with the sword of wisdom, with the sword of sattva. When we cut my delusions, cut my limitations, become the unlimited. When I expand myself and become more than I am, when I expand myself and try to become what the divine himself is, then I'm getting moksha. The biggest moha or delusion is to believe that I'm only this physical body, I'm only this vital body, I'm only this mind. That is a moha. That is a delusion. When you do not know, do not acknowledge the presence of the soul, then that is a delusion. And we have to rid ourselves of these illusions and delusions. We must always be aware, I am the soul, which was in my past lives, which is in this life, which will continue in my future lives. That will be cutting with the sword of knowledge, this ignorance of mine. And then we will come out of our moha. And moha ka jab kshay hoga to hame moksha mil gaya. I become free when I become aware of the soul in me, which is immortal. Right? When I become aware of the Atma, the Ruh inside me. Moh ka kshay hi to moksha hai. Moh ka kshay hi to moksha hai. Our biggest moha or delusion is to believe that we are only this body, vital, and mind. Of course, we are the body, vital, and mind. We are not an illusion like most of you will be told later in life. Don't believe people when they tell you, "Arey, तुम तो माया हो, तो ये सब माया है, ये यूनिवर्स माया है, it doesn't exist, it's an illusion, तुम भी illusion हो, ये world भी illusion है." Tell them, sorry, I am reading Sri Aurobindo, I don't believe that all this is maya. What is maya then? Maya is the power that God uses to become imperfect. He is perfect, he has become imperfect by using the power of maya. But he has become this tree, he has become this table, he has become this class, he has become Mona man, he has become Shlok, he has become Sarthak, he has become Anjali. He is in all of us. Our biggest moha is to live through life unaware that we are essentially the soul. So, my dear students, we come back to the central question with which we started, the last slide of the day, on which we will concentrate for some time. and remain silent for some time. Read it yourself without making yourself unmute. Don't unmute yourself. Remain muted, but read it aloud together with me. The aim of life is to become perfect instruments of the divine will. Repeat, the aim of life is to become perfect instruments of the divine will. And how can I do that? By finding God within us and within everybody, all animate and inanimate. Then by connecting with Him. Once I start connecting with Him, sometimes I'm not connected, sometimes I'm connected, sometimes I'm not connected. Then slowly I become more and more connected with Him until I get stationed in Him. Then everything I do, I remember to connect with Him. Even if I'm drinking a glass of water, 1 second, I am remembering Him, offering that glass of water to Him, inviting Him into the water, then drinking it. That means getting stationed in Him. Even when I'm having a fight with my friend, how am I having the fight? I'm remembering God. And I invite Him into that. I'm going to fight with him. I'm very angry with my friend. But God, I invite you into it. That means that I have got stationed in Him. Whatever I'm doing, I am stationed in Him and I'm inviting Him. Then, when I have found God within myself and everybody, when I have connected with Him in everything I'm doing, when I have got stationed in Him, and then letting all our outer work proceed from our rooting in the inmost being, then we are reaching, slowly inching towards the aim of our life, which is to become perfect instruments of the divine will. What is the aim of life? The aim of life is to become perfect instruments of the divine's will. All right. Thank you, my dear students. Thank you so much for being such patient audience who so sweetly heard everything. All the students, everybody who has heard today's session, you will write down in your own words, very, very short, maybe point-wise. You will write down what have you understood is the aim of life. Yes? And you will write down what is it? How will you reach that aim of life? What has to be done? What has to be done to the physical being? What has to be done through the emotional being? What has to be done through the mental being? That we can perfect our outer being so that it starts reflecting our perfect inmost being. Okay? And I would love to get from you all this homework. After that, next week, you will tell me, and we will have one round in which one at a time, whoever wants to speak, will tell me what they have actively done to bring about this transformation in themselves. What have they done for their physical being? Or if someone has worked on their their vital being, or some incident that this happened with my mother or my father, and I used what I had learned, how to refine my vital being, aspire, reject, and offer. So this is how I used this. And this is how I was able to transform my vital being in that incident. Right? Or for my mental being, what did I do? Okay? So this is the homework. First, you have to write down what you've understood. How do we refine all these beings? And what is the aim of life? Okay? Will everybody do that? Any questions?
Ma'am, after this meeting, what is the future aim of our life?
The future aim of our life is the same what we've discussed in this that the aim of our life is that the divine, whatever He wants to do through you, should be done through you. There is a divine will waiting to manifest itself through you. But when will that happen? When you will perfect yourself consciously. Consciously, you will transform your physical body. make it healthier and healthier. You will eat consciously, you will sleep consciously, you will exercise, pranayam, you will look at your vital being, your emotional being, which has desire, ego, and criticism, and all these problems, and you will work on it. What will you do? You will aspire for God's will to be done through you. You will reject all that is leading to ego and desire, and you will keep offering what you're doing. Then your vital being will start getting purified. Then God's will manifest through your vital being. Then your mental being, you will widen your mental being. You will aspire in your mental being. What else was there? You will silence your mental being. You will
Ma'am,
learn how to yes.
ma'am, so ago, ma'am, I have written a paragraph of aim of life. Without any proper aim, no one can grow in life. My
Absolutely.
my aim in life is to become a good student. Being a student, I would be able to bring happiness and laughter in the lives of my parents. There are
Yes.
ma'am, there are so many children who do not know what to do in their lives, which ma'am, which are in
Yes. They are underprivileged children who are
yes,
not
ma'am.
even, yes. So the aim of life, you're saying, is to become a good student. Very good. And how will you become a good student? When you consciously transform your outer being. When you consciously transform your mental being, consciously transform your vital being, consciously transform your physical being, then this will happen. Okay, so Ani,
Ma'am, yes,
very,
ma'am. Ma'am, in spiritual retreat, ma'am, some of the teacher has asked, ma'am, what is my aim of life?
we just discussed it, no? So Ani, one and
Ma'am,
a half hours we've discussed that only.
yes, ma'am. So,
Okay,
ma'am,
so
I told her that my aim in life is to lead an ideal life and it should be a role model of a God or someone who I follow.
very nice.
I
So
should lead my self respect and should be independent always and do not
yes,
bother something.
Does the getting rid of mo also including getting rid of all the relations?
no, no. Moh ka Akshay, what did I tell you? What is the biggest moh? The moh, the delusion is to believe that I'm only this physical body, to be unaware of the presence of the soul, to be unaware of the past life, this life, I'm going to go on, to be unaware of the aim of life. That is moha. Moha does not mean to get rid of your affections. Then how will your vital grow? Your, what did we say for the vital being? That it should live in oneness, it should live in
Yes, ma'am.
unity. It doesn't mean that I only think of only my people. I think of the whole world as my family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Yes, ma'am.
मोह को काटना नहीं है, मोह को एक्सपैंड करना है. इन दैट मेरे में सारी दुनिया समाहित हो जाए. दैट इज द ग्रेटेस्ट अचीवमेंट, राइट? मोह को
Yes,
काट
ma'am.
करके असेटिक बन करके कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. जब अर्जुन ने बोला श्री कृष्ण को कि आई डोंट वांट टू फाइट दिस बैटल, आई वांट टू गो ऑन सम हिमालयस एंड डू मेडिटेशन, श्री कृष्ण सेड क्या फायदा होगा वहां जाके? कुछ भी नहीं होगा. जो भी करना है इसी वर्ल्ड में करना है, इसी यूनिवर्स में अपने आप को एक्सपैंड करना है. ओके,
Yes,
वेरी
ma'am.
गुड
Thank you so
क्वेश्चन,
much, ma'am.
वेरी गुड. डोंट
Ma'am,
कट ऑफ
actually,
योर
this was the
अफेक्ट.
question of Preeti, ma'am. Ma'am, she told me to ask.
वेरी गुड प्रीति मैम, इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल क्वेश्चन. सबके लिए मोह खत्म नहीं करना, अपने मोह को इतना एक्सपैंड कर देना है कि पूरा यूनिवर्स उस मोह में आ जाए. सबके लिए मेरे अंदर मोह है. आई लव द वर्ल्ड, राइट? That is very beautiful question, Preeti ma'am.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask once again the meaning of Annamaya Purusha.
Yeah, so there is the physical being which is called the Annamaya Purusha. You want to write it down?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
The physical being in our philosophical terms, Indian philosophical, Hindu philosophical terms, is called the Annamaya Purusha. You've written it?
Yes, ma'am. Annamaya Purusha.
Yeah, and the vital emotional being is called the Pranamaya Purusha. Pranamaya. Because the life force is most centered in our vital being. Pranamaya Purusha. Because the prana, the life force, the energy is all flowing through mostly through prana, the life force. Then the mental being is called the Manomaya Purusha. Man jisko kehte hain na, man is not the vital. Man means the mind.
Yes.
And the mind, Manomaya Purusha, Prana, Sharira, Neta. This is what the Upanishads say. That the mind is the leader of the vital being, the prana, and the leader of the physical being or the anna. So when my physical being is lazy, lethargic, full of inertia, the mind has the strength because it can lead, because it is sattvic. And the physical being is lethargic, it is tamasic. The mind can goad it and say, no, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock. So I get 1 hour of exercise and pranayam. I'm going to make my body healthy. And the mind can push the physical because it is the leader, because it is sattvic. The mind is the leader. And when my vital being, my pranamaya sharira, is full of disgust and keeps criticizing people, always criticizing, always argumenting, then the mind can say, hello, this is your vital being, which is acting up. And oh, vital, you better shut down or you transform yourself. And the mind, if we allow the light of the mind, because the mind can get connected to the soul most easily. That is why the mind has been called the Neta, Prana Sharira Neta. Beautiful question, Aditri. Very nice. Thank you.
Ma'am, after today's session, what I have written in my copy as a lesson is so every person must have a definite aim. So, the aim of life is to give your life a purpose and a meaning. Certainly, it is done by finding out what truly matters to me. Your purpose is to create more joy in life, or to show others that can live my life in the
Very
best.
good. Very good. So we don't have to show others. What we do, we must do to grow ourselves. There's
Yes,
nothing to
yes.
show others. Nobody needs to see what I'm doing. My own soul needs to do. I need to be connected to my soul.
Ma'am, like Hindi, we say it pad chedam. Like we break up the words and then we explain. Ma'am, the way that you do it, ma'am, it is just mesmerizing. Like the word moksha that you broke up, like moh and shay. Ma'am, even I was told by everyone that moksha is something that we get rid of this earth and we go to that heaven and we are not a part of this universe. But ma'am, after today's session, ma'am, I learned that the moksha means getting rid of our moh, and that moh is just realizing that we are only the outer being. So once we get rid of that thinking, that ill thinking, we attain moksha.
Yes, the moha is just to love myself, my own
Yes,
family,
ma'am.
all that is moha. We have to expand myself, we have to widen ourselves. That the trees, the plants, every human being on earth, everybody is part of my family. That is the meaning of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Ma'am, what is I understand from Moksha is that no, ma'am, if the divine is in us, then it is everyone. So the divine has split itself into pieces. So we are also the pieces, and we are the only one.
Very nice. Yes. So instead of using the word pieces, our philosophers have said, our rishis have said it so beautifully. Om, so repeat after me without muting yourself, without unmuting yourself. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. So he has not become pieces. He's not like a piece of cake which has been cut up into pieces. All of him has become Shlok, the soul in Shlok. All of him has become Prakriti, the soul of Prakriti. All of him has become Sohani. Full, complete, Purnamada, Purnamidam. And the example that they gave is like from a fire, many sparks come out. Does the fire get divided into pieces? No.
No, ma'am.
the entire fire becomes each spark. And each spark
Ma'am,
has a potentiality to become a fire again. Just like one tree becomes so many millions of seeds. And each seed has a potentiality to become such a vast tree again. And that potentiality is invisible. You cut a seed and you see there's nothing inside it. But the divine principle is inside that seed, just like the divine principle is inside us. All we need to be taught in every school in the world should be how to connect to that divinity inside me, how to connect to myself, because I am that soul which was, which is, which will be. I am that soul to whom I should offer even a glass of water, a drop of water that I'm going to drink. I am that soul to whom I have to offer the session that we are going to do. I am that soul which is full, perfect. The perfect is inside us. And our outer being, the physical being, the vital being, the mental being is imperfect. But if I dip into the perfection inside me, my outer imperfect being can slowly become more and more and more and more perfect. And when we become more perfect, then God's work can be done through us effortlessly. Because our aim is to become God's instruments.
ma'am, our life is like a spark. Ma'am, from we are the spark, and what we want to attain. So the fire burns and burns until it burns the whole forest, and it becomes so vast that it can be seen worldwide, it can be seen from far away. And ma'am, this is us. So if we grow, we have one goal, and we want to attain, we have a will to attain it, then we grow and grow to become the fire.
Beautiful. The fire burns, and what does it burn? It burns away all the impurities. All we have to do is invoke the fire, call the fire, aspire for the fire. And fire is not far away. It's not in some temple, in some masjid, in some mosque, in some gurudwara. It's right here, so close to us. And it doesn't even take time that it has to come by flight or by train. Just have to close our eyes and we can experience the fire. Close our eyes or open our eyes and offer to that fire, and the fire comes forward and helps us because we are aspiring for purity. We are aspiring for perfection. That is God's aim. The mother has said, an aimless life is a miserable life. So it is very important for schools and parents to give the children the right aim of life. The aim of life is to become that perfect instrument through doing beautifully in our studies, concentrating on our studies, concentrating on our physical being and making it perfect, concentrating on my vital being and making it full of harmony and love and sweetness and compassion and oneness and unity, and concentrating on our mental being and making it more and more full of the power of concentration, full of tranquility and silence, full of wideness. Yes?
And like the fire burns, it burns the impurities, and the impurities become ash, and ash helps to grow another forest, a very fresh forest. So ma'am, we have to become like that. So whenever we all the left what we leave behind, we have to um, like give chances to other people. Like the fire burns away every impurity and gives what is left is the impurity has become pure.
Very beautiful, Shloki. You have really understood it. And you've put it in such beautiful words, your own words. You don't need to depend on anybody's words. They are your words because you have understood it from the bottom of your heart.
Ma'am, how you get so much of knowledge of who am I, or what is the advantage of this path, aim of life?
It's not my knowledge, my dear. It's all God's knowledge. Then I had a very, very good friend, philosopher, guide, teacher. I used to call him my guru, but he always used to say, no, I'm
Okay.
not your guru, my dear. I'm your friend. He was Kirit Joshi. So all that little bit that I know, very little bit of the whole knowledge of the world, this little bit that I know is all thanks to that teacher. For me, he was everything because he took me on this path.
Okay,
So it's
ma'am.
very important to have a guide in life, somebody who you trust completely with your decisions. Yes? Thank you, Suhani. Thank you for the compliment.
Ma'am, like you told that your guru, he taught all the knowledge that you gave to us. So, ma'am, like the example that I gave, ma'am, it is the story is connected to each other. The ash is now you, and the impurities that and the fire was your guru, and all the
Yes, ma'am.
impurity is burnt, and you became pure.
So
Oh,
the cycle goes on, and the cycle goes on.
yeah, cycle goes on. But my dear Shlok, I have lot of impurities still to burn. My teacher
Yes,
was a
ma'am.
great.
We all have impurities, but at some point, it becomes only a few left, which has to be important for a human being to grow and learn from himself or herself.
Yes, thank you, Shlok. Thank you so much. The name of my teacher was Kirit Joshi. You want to write it down? Kireet. Kireet. Joshi. Joshi. So we've created an app. If you go to App Store and if you type Kirit Joshi, you will find an app which you can download for free, in which you can hear his lectures, even hearing his voice. He has taken me to Sri Aurobindo. He has taken thousands of people to Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo has given answers in such a clear fashion. What is falsehood? How did falsehood come around? How did God become the falsehood? Because there is nothing but God. So all the questions of my earlier life were answered by Kirit Joshi ji. And he answered them through the light of Sri Aurobindo. I want you all to know about Sri Aurobindo. I want you to know about Kirit Joshi ji. And you can hear his lectures on the App Store, or he also has a website we have created. It's called www.kiritjoshi.com. So you can hear his lectures, you can transcribe, you can just download his lectures, you can print his lectures, you can read and hear him, and he is magic. He's just pure magic. Okay,
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right.
Ma'am, when a substance or anything, ma'am gets into fire, it becomes magic.
Yeah, when anything gets into fire, it gets purified. Just like the first
Yes,
story from Bible.
ma'am,
How did
that
the
is magic.
Yes, how did silver get refined? Because the silversmith put it on fire. The fire is inside us, right here, our soul. And when we put our emotions, our greed, our desires, our ego into this fire, then they get refined, they get purified. And then we invite God into the work we are doing, and He comes forward after purifying us and brings forth a purer action, purer thought, purer emotion. That is the work of the fire, to purify ourselves. Very nice, Sudev. Next time when we meet, we will talk of meditation and concentration. What is meditation? What is the difference between meditation and concentration? What is concentration? And maybe we find some way of doing it. You all are young. If you learn at this age, when you grow older, meditation will come so easily to you. At our age, we have to struggle through it. But you won't have to struggle because you've learned it at a young age. Every school should be doing this. 30 seconds of silence and thank you to God and invite Him into the rest of your evening. Okay?